Hi, my name is Christopher Malcolm, and welcome to Movable Canvas, where we talk about the movies and what makes good movies into great ones. Today we talk about Antonioni's 1966 classic, Blow Up. The film stars David Hemmings in his role as a kind of London mod fashion photographer in the mold of like a David Bailey who takes a bit of time between shooting big fashion spreads and, well, bedding the models to do a little bit of personal shooting in the park. He ends up taking what at first seems to be an innocent, if somewhat voyeuristic image of a woman in the park having a lover's tryst. The image is good enough, but as he gets it home and starts to kind of look at it and literally blow it up, he starts to see that maybe the image isn't quite as innocent as at first it seemed. I think one of the great things about movies is that our reaction to them usually tells us as much about ourselves as they do about the movies. Understanding why we connect to a movie is almost just as important as giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Blow Up is one of those films that I've enjoyed more and more every time I've watched it. And I feel like that's a hallmark of a great film. That's something that separates a great film from a good film. There are a lot of, good enough films that you go out and you watch and they entertain you for an hour and a half, 2 hours, then you walk out of the theater and 5 minutes later somebody says, well, what just happened in the movie? You say, I don't even remember. But you enjoyed it, but it just, it's like a piece of candy. You ate it and it went away. What a great filmmaker will do is they'll put enough layers into the cake. They'll put enough layers into their story, into the visuals, that you start to notice things that you don't notice things the first time around, but then the more you watch it, the more you notice it, and the more meaningful it is for you. And I think most great filmmakers are like that they reward you for repeated viewings. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Chris, what the heck are you talking about? Here's what I mean. In my non-YouTube life, I'm a professional photographer, and I imagine many of you probably watching this are artists of some sort. The first time I saw Blow Up, I was in my early 20s, and it was really one of those movies that was on the checklist of films that you just have to see. I was never as big an Antonioni fan as maybe a number of my friends were. But I appreciated the movie, and at that age, I absolutely appreciated the famous three-way frolicking scene with the models, which I should point out, now as a professional photographer, I realize was completely inappropriate. Yeah, don't do that on set. On its surface, Blow Up is a thriller, a whodunit, or maybe more accurately, an investigation into what, if anything, was actually done. But what's most interesting now, given repeated viewings in my advanced age, is that you start to realize that the movie is more than just a kind of nuts and bolts thriller. In fact, it's really not so much about the crime at all. It's really a story about false facades and about how what we might initially see is maybe not telling the complete story. The closer you blow things up, the more things come into focus and the more things start to get hazy. At first, David Hemmings' character appears to have it all. He's got a glamorous job. He's got beautiful women. On the face of it, he's like a wet dream for any guy going through a midlife crisis. But if you look deeper, you'll also notice a deep well of discontent. Yes, he's a busy fashion photographer, but if you look closer, you realize that his art form that brings him so much glory no longer provides much of a spark. His treatment of the models is horrid, almost as if he hates them. But again, if you look closely, it almost begins to appear as though what he really hates is his own existence. What he really hates is his own work. He tries to satisfy this with an endless stream of material excesses, whether it be a comically oversized propeller that he just has to have right now, or a threesome with two aspiring starlets that, just really because they're there. In an equally erotic, if somewhat unconsummated section with a real-life model, Verushka, at which he inspires Austin Powers with his yes, yes, yes type of photography session. You'll notice he attacks it really with a desperation. As he's doing that shoot, it's almost as if he's for lack of a better kind of analogy, it's almost as if he's an impotent man desperate for arousal, And every time he's chanting, he's begging her to give him something to get his artistic blood pumping. And then ultimately at the end of the scene, he can't achieve his full potential, and he ends up just kind of collapsed there on the couch. In fact, the only real reason he stumbles upon the photograph that ends up maybe or maybe not depicting a crime is that he had, lacking inspiration, he just grabs his camera and goes out into the streets to try to basically reconnect with the artistic spark that he feels he's lost. So when he lands on Vanessa Redgrave and her paramour in the park, it not only satisfies his yen for instant gratification, but it also serves to suddenly ignite his creative impulse. And he starts to snap away, snap away, snap away, because he's suddenly feeling that passion coming out. His life may seem full, but in reality, it's just as much of a charade as those mimes that open and close the film. I won't tell you too much more about the plot. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'd like you to watch it. For those of you who have not seen it in a while, maybe it's a good time to go back and watch it again. But in either case, I suggest you go back and take a deep dive into a terrific film. And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire you to take a closer look at your own life. Hopefully without all the potential felonies and definite sexual harassment. Thanks for watching this episode of Movable Canvas. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Go ahead and put them in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button, as I'll be reviewing new films every week and starting hopefully a discussion about what makes good movies into great films.